good morning.
Morning. It's morning this time.
It is morning, and welcome to our third, can you believe it, our third virtual
Already.
church.
That's crazy. It's crazy. But what's your week been like, Chloe?
My week has it's been virtual, really has. I have been on many video calls and Skype calls, making videos and doing lots of fun things. So,
Yeah.
You?
A lot of dog walks. Tried to take my little dog on a run yesterday, and it didn't go so well. He was not happy with me. But just a lot of Zoom calls. But it's been good fun, mostly.
Good. Well, we just wanted to say we loved seeing some of your pictures and things from last week, with you dressing up as Peter, and even additional characters too. Like I think we had John and Mary, and
we did, yeah.
Various other things. So thank you so much.
Peter's wife, I think, was one of them, wasn't there? It was Peter's wife.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, what we'll do is we'll share a little selection now. We'll just we'll cut to it now.
Yep, and you can see all various different things that people are dressed up as. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. This week we are looking at the theme of Easter through the eyes of nobody. Okay.
Or is it of a nobody?
I've just written nobody, but it could be a nobody. But our photo challenge for this week, because we're quite enjoying these photo challenges, is we want you to take a photo of a scene in your house with someone hidden in it, kind of hidden almost in plain sight. But we just want to kind of see, maybe you blend in really well with your sofa, or maybe you've got some clothes that match exactly with the curtains, and if you stand in front of them, you become invisible. So we kind of want to see your photos of people hiding in plain sight.
Your good camouflage skills. It's your time to become. Is it a chameleon that can camouflage really well?
Yes.
Yes. So time to become a chameleon.
So you might want to pause this video now. Obviously, take as long as you need. We're going to be here when you get back. And then same as last week. If you want to upload them to the post in Facebook, or send them to either me or Chloe with our contact details, then that would be great. So pause this video now.
Brilliant. So I'm sure you've had fun making those videos, or pictures, should I say. And so we've just got a bit of an icebreaker question to start off with as a family, to set the scene for today. So the question is, what is the biggest crowd you have, or best crowd you have ever been in? Okay, so think of places where you've been where there's been lots of people. So it might be your school hall where you've had a whole school in one place. It might be going to the theatre to see the pantomime, or maybe in the streets going to a market or a fair. Or some of you I know have done Young Voices where there's thousands of children there. So have a think about the best or the biggest crowd you've been in. Okay, have a think. Maybe pause, have a discussion, and come back. So Matt, I think you have an example about your best or biggest crowd. I'm not sure whether it's the biggest, but your best experience of being in a crowd.
Yeah, it's not the biggest crowd, but I would argue that it's the best. And if people want to, argue with me, that's fine. But I think it was in 2009 or 2010. I can't quite remember. I was at the final match of the season in Leeds at Ellen Road when we were still in League One, and we needed to win to get promoted. And the match kind of went. The other team went ahead. Then we had a man sent off, but then we actually ended up winning the game. And when the final whistle blew, I legged it onto the pitch. I was so happy. Me and my brother, we're on the second row, so we were really close, and so we just kind of jumped and legged it. My dad stayed. He wasn't particularly wanting to run onto the pitch, and so we legged it on, and I just got completely lost. And then suddenly I found myself like right in front of like my favorite player, and so I gave him a big hug, which was awesome. And then like you just kind of bounced around, and then I completely got lost. I had no idea where I was. Kind of looking around, trying to find where I was supposed to go. But yeah, then I kind of I remembered that we were in it's called the East Stand, the family stand, and it's got 2 tiers, so it's the biggest one. So I was like, oh, if I head towards that, then I might be able to find my dad. But when I got back to my dad, he was like, "Was that good?" And I was like, "The best. It was amazing." So that was my favourite crowd that I've ever been a part of, and obviously Leeds getting promoted.
Yeah, for some people, it's the best thing ever. For me, yeah, whatever.
Whatever. Rude.
I'm not a football fan. So for this video and for looking at Easter through the eyes of a nobody, we have put together a bit of a summary of events of what it might have been like for someone in the crowd as a nobody during that Easter week. Maybe going through Palm Sunday, some of the other events, Jesus being arrested and going to the cross, and maybe what it might have been felt like to be in those crowds at that time. So what we want you to do is we want you to find a comfy space, whether you go and lie on the floor in your lounge or whether you go and just put your head down on the table. We want you to close your eyes, and we want you to listen to maybe what it might have been like to have been someone or no one in that crowd, as to what you might be able to hear, what you might be able to smell, taste or touch, and have a listen and see what you come up with.
Yeah, see what you feel.
I was just off to buy food from the market when I found that I couldn't get through. The whole road was blocked with people, pushing and cheering, waving palm branches. They shouted things like, "Hosanna! Here comes the Son of David!" I couldn't see a king, just a normal man on a donkey. But this was a king's welcome. They called his name, Jesus! Jesus! Now Jesus I had heard of, some teacher from the north. The crowd was buzzing all about what he had been doing and what he might do next, healing the sick, casting out demons, even raising the dead. Maybe I should join in with the crowd. Perhaps I should find out more. Seeing how Jesus had arrived, I was very intrigued. But before I knew it, he had been arrested. Both Pilate and King Herod had questioned him and decided he was innocent. While we watched, I saw a Pharisee whisper to someone. Then the man shouted, "We want Barabbas!" And others joined him. "Barabbas!" Barabbas? He was a famous prisoner, a murderer. Was Jesus really worse than a killer? "Crucify him!" Crucify him? That seems a bit extreme. But the religious leaders had judged him guilty. Who should I believe? We reached the hilltop, where they were to crucify him. Crosses were laid out, nails were hammered through hands and feet, skin, bone, wood. Gruesome agony cried out over the crowd's cheers. I watched them hoist him up, soldiers grunting, pulling, shoving, straight-faced, well-practiced. Just another execution, I guess. I saw a group of women, weeping, wailing. One much older than the others. A mother, maybe. Some others stood at a distance, hiding, scared, ashamed. I recognized some of them from the day Jesus had arrived. Most of the crowd left before too long. I was tempted to leave too. I don't know why I stayed. Something kept me there. Curiosity, perhaps. "Forgive them, Father," Jesus said as people threw insults. Then there was darkness, night at midday, and Jesus looked up to heaven again. "It is finished," he shouts. "Father, I give you my spirit." I watched Jesus take one last breath and drop his head. Beaten, smeared, mocked, exhausted. I walked away, no words to say.
We hope that was kind of really, really helpful for you guys, just to kind of maybe try and imagine what it would have been like to be in the crowd as you kind of saw these different events that we read about so much at Easter. And so what we want you to do is we're going to take you to the kind of last bit of the story. So we're going to last week we looked in Luke, and I am fairly sure that my bookmark is still in Luke. Yes. But we're going to turn to Luke chapter 23. And we're going to look just at verse 48 and 49. Now, Chloe, you're going to read from the CEV version, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Would you like to read that for us?
Yes. Okay, so a crowd had gathered to see the terrible sight. Then, after they had seen it, they felt broken-hearted and went home. All Jesus' close friends and the women who had come with him from Galilee stood at a distance and watched.
Thank you, Chloe. Now, while we were kind of preparing this, we were kind of thinking, like, if we were nobody in the crowd, we had a choice. We have a choice, don't we? We would have had a choice to either kind of get swept up with the crowd and kind of go along with what they were chanting. You know, we part of the trial where the crowd chanting, you know, like, no, we want Barabbas to be free. You know, like, would you have got swept up with that? And so for us, just like these people who had gathered at the cross, we have a choice. We can either, like I say, get swept up with the crowd, or we can look up to Jesus. That's quite a hard thing to do. You know, sometimes it means we have to kind of reflect on ourselves. Just like when I was in, it's not exactly the same, but when I was in the Leeds United Stadium, I had to look up to kind of know where I was going. And I think that's definitely the same for us, isn't it? Sometimes if we're in a crowd, we can easily kind of get swept up and start going the wrong way or get lost. But when we kind of look up and look to Jesus, we gain direction. So, yeah.
Yeah, so there's lots of places where we can get, or different situations where we could get swept up in the crowd. Just like this nobody could have been swept up in the crowd at the trial of Jesus with Pilate, and could have actually been saying, no, I want Barabbas free, not Jesus, or being confused. We can be swept up in the crowd at school. Perhaps there's an argument or a fight going on in the playground, and we could be on one side and swept on the other. At home with sibling rivalry, it doesn't have to be anything wrong either. Or in our work lives for those adults, we can get swept up in with maybe different views or political things. And it's easy to get swept along with them in the way that the world wants to go, or the way that the world thinks, or the way that your friends think is right, when actually we need to take a step back and, like Matt said, actually look up and go, okay, what would actually Jesus want in this situation? Is this right for me is what everyone else is doing the right thing just because everyone's doing it? Is that the right thing? Or do I actually need to turn around and go the other way, or look up to Jesus and find out what is the right thing that we should do?
And so sometimes it really helps us to have a bit of a focus, doesn't it? Sometimes it helps us just to kind of maybe have an activity to kind of focus on and give us that time. So, Chloe, we've got a bit of an activity, a prayer activity for people to do, haven't we?
Yes, and so for this prayer activity, you need to pause this video and you need to go and find at least 2 sticks, one long one smaller one, and some twine, okay? They could be really big ones, they could be smaller ones, and you could have more than one, you can make one each or whatever, but you need at least 2 sticks and some string to make at least one of what we're going to make. Off you go. We're back. Okay, so I very quickly am back again, gone into my garden, or someone else has for me. Magic, just like that. And so now I have various different twigs of different sizes from my garden. We've just cut down a giant bush from our garden, so we have multiple sticks. And you might have already guessed what we're going to make, but for those who haven't, we are going to make a cross. Because as this is the time of remembering Easter and Jesus dying on the cross, I thought it would be a very good reflection for us to be able to have a cross maybe in our house, maybe put it on your mantelpiece or window or somewhere for you to focus on throughout this week as Holy Week leading up to Good Easter Friday and
Good Friday.
Sunday. Good Friday. It's Good Friday.
Well, yeah.
To just remind yourself this week to focus on Jesus and to look to Jesus. So in order how you to make it, you need a big twig and a little twig and put it like that. And then you can get some twine. And now some of you at home, probably lots of dads who have been Cub Scouts or whatever, have got all sorts of different ways of making knots and things, but just tie it around one way and then tie it around another way and find some string and tie off. You could probably also use elastic bands. Oops, yeah. I've lost my string on the floor now. And then, just like Blue Peter, it will turn into something that will look like this.
How did you do that?
Just I'm just preparing to be a Blue Peter presenter. That's like being a childhood dream, by the way. And then once you've made them, you could make little ones like we've got here. Or maybe even later on, if you've got some big pieces of wood in the garage, maybe we could challenge you to make one for outside. Maybe you could put one in your garden. Like at Christmas, we put loads of Christmas decorations up. Maybe for this week of Easter, you could put one up in your garden too.
Have you haven't managed to make one of those really quickly, have you?
I have. Well, no, my glamorous assistant has made one. So we've had some driftwood in our garage for a while. You can't actually see it unless I go like that.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got some beautiful driftwood that Rob has made, and so he's nailed it together. And so we're just going to work out where we're going to put this big cross in our house.
So, Chloe, now that people have made their crosses, are we going to pray?
I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. What are we going to ask people to pray about?
So I think you could either do this. Well, we can pray together as a collective church. That's a great way of praying together. But may I also suggest that you maybe take some time without the video going to maybe focus your eyes on Jesus this way. So maybe put your cross somewhere in the center of your house or in the center of a room, or hold it and maybe spend a time just being quiet and looking and focusing on Jesus. Maybe have some music playing in the background and see what God wants to say to you or meet you in that place. So for now, praying together, why don't you hold on to your cross? If you've made one as a family, why don't you all hold on to a part of it? Just try not to fight over it or break it, because depending on how delicate your twigs are, they might not survive. Shall we pray? Matt, do you want to pray?
Yeah, I'll pray. Jesus, I thank you that you are always with us. And God, wherever we are, whether we're swept up in a big crowd or whether we're by ourselves, God, I thank you that, you are watching over us. And God, I want to say sorry for all the times where maybe we do get swept up in the crowd and maybe we we go in a different direction, maybe that you don't want us to go in. So God, I pray that you help us to look up and look at you for direction. God, and I pray that we would really learn how to do that in our kind of day-to-day lives as we as life, when life starts getting back to normal, God, whether at school, at work, with our friends, God, I pray that we would look to you and that you would be our focus. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Cool.
Well, it's been lovely to be with you this morning. Do let us know how you get on.
Oh yeah.
And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah.
On Easter Sunday.
It's Easter next Sunday.
Easter is next Sunday.
My goodness.
So, keep in touch on the Facebook page and emails and things to see what we might be doing. Might be doing slightly different things. I'm not quite sure yet, but tune in. And I will see you on Sunday.
Yeah. Bye.